Good evening, friends. It is an honor to have you all with us in this show. And I welcome Paddy here.
Hi.
So, before people join us, let me just tell about the show a little. We've started organizing these international poetry meets in which we are having a small meet of 5 poets, and today we have here with us John, Waheeda, and Sunil ji, and our dear moderator Paddy or Padmaja. So let me tell you a little about Padmaja, though you must all be knowing her. Padmaja Iyengar Peddy is an advisory panel member, ISISAR, Kolkata, and the editorial counselor, India, International Writers Journal, USA. Her maiden poetry collection, Penchants, has been recognized as a unique record of excellence by the India Book of Records, a recipient of several awards and prizes. Paddy has compiled and edited 6 international multilingual poetry anthologies, of which Amravati Poetry Prison 2016 to 19 have been recognized by the Limca Book of Records as the poetry anthology in most languages. Paddy's poems, short stories, and articles, some of them prize winners, have been widely published in several print magazines, anthologies, and e-zines. So, welcome, Paddy. I request you to take over the stage.
Thank you, Neelam. Hi, everybody. Hello, everybody. I'm Padmaja Iyengar Paddy. Namaskar and good evening from India. Wishing all of you a wonderful, healthful, peaceful, and a creative 2021. A warm welcome to you all to this third edition of International Poetry Meet, organized and facilitated by my very dear friend and the much awarded prolific poet, novelist, and short story writer, Neelam Saxena Chandra. I'd like to begin today's proceedings with these 4 lines from a poem of mine. It is on this earth that we face tests that challenge life's journey and quest. As we fare and emerge through them, each experience becomes a true gem. Life's journey in 2020 indeed seemed a challenge, but I'm sure with the COVID vaccination now very much in vicinity, we'll look back at each of our 2020 experience with gratitude and as a learning. A warm welcome to you all once again to this third International Poetry Meet. I also extend a hearty welcome to our friends connecting with this meet live on Facebook on Neelam Saxena Poet page. Come, let's all enjoy an evening of some great English poetry and a tete-a-tete with the participating poets at this third International Poetry Meet. I have great pleasure in welcoming our guest poet, a well-known English poet, all the way from France. Is he there, Neelam? Can I invite him? Can you see John?
No, his device is not. No, his device
Okay.
is not yet connected. So maybe we can invite him a bit later.
Sure, we'll do
Means
that.
there's
We'll do that.
some issue with this device.
Okay. So we'll next go to. I'm immensely pleased to welcome a senior medical doctor and our guest poet from Pune, Maharashtra, India, Dr. Sunil Kaushal. Welcome to the studio, Dr. Sunil Kaushal, ma'am. Hope I'm audible to you.
You are. Thank you so much, Paddy. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. And
Pleasure.
Neelam, thank you so much for having me on this platform.
Thank
I'm
you.
really honored to be amongst all of you. And I'm
Thank
very
you.
thankful to the audience who is watching us.
Thank you. Dr. Sunil Kaushal, a gynecologist and a gold medalist in dramatics, writes in 3 languages besides being translated into French, German, and Greek. Her memoirs, Gypsy Wanderings and Random Reflections, was awarded the Nisam Award by the Significant League International. Dr. Sunil Kaushal is a recipient of several national and international honors, notably and the most recent ones being the Enchanting Muse and Fellow of Regal Word of Scribes Award by the Fantasy Bee Poetry Group, Literary Brigadier Award by Story Mirror, the Women Achievers Award 2019 by Literoma, recognition by Gujarat Sahitya Academy as one of the 150 outstanding poets of India. Wow, that's wonderful, ma'am. Welcome again to the studio, Dr. Sunil Kaushal.
Thank you, ma'am.
I now have great pleasure in welcoming Waheeda Hussian, a young teacher and a guest poet from Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, India. Hello, Waheeda. Am I
Good
audible to
evening,
you?
everyone. Yes,
Good.
yes, ma'am. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
Paddy.
Thank
Good
you.
evening, everyone. This is a
Yes.
proud moment for me to be amidst such august poets and writers. Thank you, dear Neelam, for this opportunity. Thank you, Paddy. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you here. Waheeda Hussian is a blogger and a poet. She's a senior school teacher by profession. She also has a passion for writing short stories. She dreams of social justice and equality for women, wow, and is playing an important role in bringing awareness on issues like domestic violence and female feticide. According to Waheeda, her style of writing poetry is simple and lucid, as we'll soon find out. Um,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Paddy. Thank you so much.
more power to your awareness missions on domestic violence and
Thank you.
female feticide,
Thank
dear
you.
Waheeda. A warm welcome to
Thank you
the
so much.
studio. So,
Thank
do
you.
I hear knock knock by John? Is there a knock on the
No,
studio by
not
John? Not yet.
not
Okay.
yet.
Not yet.
Right. So it's now my great honor and pleasure to request the lady with the magic pen, the prolific poet and writer, Neelam Saxena Chandra, the organizer and facilitator of this International Poetry Meet series, to please deliver her introductory address. But before she does that, here are a few lines in introduction about her, though she really doesn't need an introduction, being so well known to all of us and all over. Neelam Saxena Chandra has authored 5 novels, a novella, and 6 short story collections, 32 poetry collections, and 14 children's books. She's a bilingual author writing in English and Hindi. More than 1,500 of her poems and stories have been published in various journals, anthologies, and magazines. She holds a record with the Limca Book of Records 2015 for being the author having the highest number of publications in a year in English as well as Hindi. Neelam Saxena Chandra is a recipient of several international and national awards. She was listed in Forbes as one of the most popular 78 authors in 2014. Over to you, Neelam, for your introductory remarks.
I think that calls for an
Thank
applause.
Yes, an applause. Yes, no doubt.
Yes, yes.
thank you. Thank you so much. You all are so kind. I'm just enjoying the journey of writing and meeting so many friends, and this is the biggest achievement. So, friends, first of all, I extend my wishes for a very, very happy new year to all of you.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you
And
so much.
I've just written 4 lines. I twirl, I swirl, I peer out. With happiness, I shine. I let the life freely flow, and with life, I rhyme. So, this is not only for me, but this is for all of us here. So, I hope that we all keep dancing, singing all
Absolutely.
year through. After all, we've had a very tough 2020. So,
Amen.
I hope
Amen.
we all enjoy. And with vaccine just round the corner, I suppose it would be a better year. So, my best wishes to all of you. And I hope our poetry somewhere makes you feel humanly in this world. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
So,
Over
thank
to
you,
you,
Neelam.
Patty.
Thank you, Neelam. I'm again welcoming all our friends who are joining via Facebook Live through your page, Neelam Saxena, poet writer. Warm welcome to you all, friends. I now invite our Dr. Poet, Dr. Sunil Kaushal. We'll now start the poetry session because that's the main purpose of this meet. So there are 2 rounds, as you all know, and as we have, this is the format also. We have 2 rounds of poetry in which In the first round, each poet reads a poem, and then I might just ask you a question or two about your own poem or something else. And then we move over to the second session. So this is the format. So we now enter the first session of our poetry reading. Can I hear a knock from John anywhere? No.
No, not yet. He
Okay,
was trying, but I suppose there's some issue.
that's what it looks like. Yeah. Okay. So I invite our doctor poet, Dr. Sunil Kaushal, to please read her poem. Over to you, Dr. Sunil Kaushal. Please read your poem.
Thank you, Paddy. I hope I'm clearly audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to extend a very, very warm-hearted, love-filled greeting to all of you. I'm a great one for distributing love. I believe in love a lot. And I just like to, Neelam is always reciting 4 lines. I want to recite 1 line first from Rumi. Do not look outside of yourself to seek love. Look within to see all the walls you have built between it and your heart. So we keep
Very nice.
wondering.
Very nice.
We keep wondering why
Very
we are not
beautiful.
doing it. I usually write about, thank you, Neelam. I usually write a lot about social issues. I've written about widows, I've written about transgenders, I've written about the senile people, and but those are slightly lengthy poems, and I could not, fit them into this space. But there is one issue which has been bothering me a lot, and it is almost 10 months since the so-called migrants went home, and there is still no news of them. And this inspired me to write this poem for them. This poem is called Exodus. Home was never the Republic of India. It was just that hut. Home was never the Republic of India. It was just that hut. That day, as I stepped down from the train to enter dreamland, my new shirt patted my back, dripped in the sweat of desires. Torn shoes, pinching blisters aside, struggling, stumbling, climbing higher, trudging many a mile, crawling, plodding through swarms of declined offers, slogging still. Finally, their heartless doorstep, my beggar's bowl reaches. Thoughts of dignity, justice, rights, surrendered. Crumbs gnawing at my entrails. Starvation teaches compromises. As marble-stepped mansions seduced my jangled nerves, the Shangri-La in my eyes reflecting blinding neon glow signs, melts the viscid stickiness of my village darkness to an ungrieved death. The Shangri-La in my eyes, reflecting blinding neon glow signs, melts the viscid stickiness of my village darkness to an ungrieved death. Tens of us huddled in a shanty, two balls of coarse rice down my gullet goads me on. I scrape to send back to the village enough to keep them alive before the thirst of the money-lender's wallet sucks the last drop of their blood. 2 years bought me 1 meal a day, a train ticket, a new sari for her, a plastic doll and car for the kids, and sweaters for Amma and Baba, and replaced the thatch with a tin roof. Roads paved, citadels secure, bridges connecting homes and hearts, schools, hospitals, airports, railways, even gold-plated sanctuaries for each god, silver-crowned, marble-floored. The cornucopia converts abundance to jealousy, need to greed, friend to foe. Depravity abounds, sickening minds and bodies. March 24th, 2020. Disowned them without warning. Exodus of migrants, screams the media. Migrants? Migrants? Did you say migrants? I mistook them for men, women, babies, barefoot, whom hunger and fatigue hounds. How many perished on the way? Who cares or counts? Few wretched survivors straggle home to starving families, swallowed by cyclones, barren fields, devastated, huddled under furious, torrential, roofless skies. Ma, you too betrayed us. So that was my poem about the migrants.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Very, very poignant poem, very poignant poem.
Very
And
pointed.
very, very well recited by you, and it straight reaches the heart. And you have touched on a topic that has been engaging the national attention for quite a while now, the issue of the migrants. And we had those very heart-wrenching scenes we saw on the TV
Yes.
also, you know. And I mean, we all only saw it on the TV, they all experienced it, the
It
migrants.
is 10 months now, and we have no news what happened to all of them.
True. That is
Nobody's
that's
bothered to
true.
go back. Nobody's
Yeah.
bothered to go back, except that one actor
Yeah,
who
true.
is in.
Yes,
Sonu Sood, who has been,
Sonu.
working for them. True.
Hats off to him.
Kaushal, I want to ask you
hats
one
off.
question. All of
Yes.
us were, watching these scenes, and we all something, a particular incident, strikes us when that creativity, gets converted into a poem like this, like the one you have written. Can you please share which was the particular incident that made you write this poignant poem?
Paddy, you'll be surprised to know that for the past 15 years or more, a little more, I have not watched the news on television or bought any papers. I don't read news. I don't listen to the news because it fills me with too much negativity. I take on all the stress. I get emotionally disturbed with it, and I can do nothing about it. There was a time when I was younger, I did a lot of work. I did a lot of social service and all. Now I'm at an age when I can only sit and write. But being on Facebook, I was getting all those pictures. I was getting flashes. You get a glimpse into all that's happening on the media when you're on the net. And all that was disturbing me a lot. Seeing those, especially when I got to know that there was one woman who was pregnant and she delivered on the roadside, and they walked on after that. And they still carried on like that. Young couple.
Right.
And they had another baby with them still.
Yes.
Those are, when you put yourself in that position,
True.
how privileged we are and how we take it for granted, all those privileges.
Granted.
Absolutely, you're right, Dr. Sunil Kaushal. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. It's always, very interesting to know what happens within a poet and what happens in the poet's mind when the poet writes a particular poem. So thank you for sharing those insights. And there are very nice comments on your poems that I have seen. Sadbir Chadhaji liked your poem very much, and there are others who are there. We welcome Purnima, we welcome Syed Saab, who has been praising your poem a lot, and then we have Mandita Dharni, and there are a few others also who have joined on Facebook. So thank you all for joining us on Facebook. And now it is the turn of, is John there yet?
No, not there.
Okay, so he still needs some guidance. Okay.
Right.
Nisha Saxena, welcome. Good evening to you. Warm welcome to the show. Now it is the turn of our teacher poet, Waheeda Hussain, to please read her poem. Over to you, Waheeda. Surekha Sahu, welcome. Thank you for your two good comment.
Thank you,
Thank
Paddy.
you, Prince.
Uh, and good evening, all. My poem is on domestic violence. There is a thick wall around me, and I'm all alone, waiting to be kicked and scorned, waiting to be throttled and shred. The doors are shut, the bottle is all powerful, the arms strong and tongue abusive, all anxious to decide my fate. My screams are unheard, my voice choked, my tears have dried, my existence is in bits and pieces. It is time to pick myself up, but my wounds need your tongue, my screams your ears, my trauma your heart, so that I may live with dignity. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very heart-wrenching poem, and all that happens behind closed doors most of the times. In fact,
Yes,
domestic
that is
violence
what.
is a universal problem. Almost, many women are facing it in very different ways, and sometimes the domestic violence pervades
Fine.
all levels: the physical, the mental, the emotional, and so many other levels. It completely, um, completely kills the self-respect and the self-confidence of a woman. And I think you have touched on those points very, very well, Waheeda Hussain.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
Thank you
you
so
so
much
much.
for this
Thank you.
wonderful poem. It is now my honor and privilege to invite the bureaucrat poet amongst us, Neelam Saxena Chandra. Neelam is a qualified engineer from a premier institute of Technology Institute of India, as you all know. She's also an Indian Railway Service officer. She's an additional divisional manager in Indian Railways, works at Pune, Maharashtra, and she's also trained in the London School of Economics. So over to you, Neelam, for your poetry reading. Mute. Unable to hear. Please.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
that's why I said.
That.
Thank you, Paddy. Thank you, Sunil ji and Waheeda, for your wonderful poem. So I would like to begin with some, a sprightly poem. So my poem is titled My Resolution, and this is about New Year. The spirited beat of the drums reverberates. I get up, my feet in perfect resonance with the rhythm. I swirl, I twirl and pirout in seamless sync with the new year. I hold its hands and we flamboyantly ball till we drop dead. No goblets of wine are needed to arouse my spirits, for the new year itself is a whopping chance to enjoy. I'm getting 365 more days of opportunities. My soul gets intoxicated, and I wish to sway with every galloping moment. After all, what else is life for other than to celebrate the existence? I would like you to pay attention to these two lines. After all, what else is life for other than to celebrate the existence? This year,
True.
I promise to myself, come what may, I'll not let my spirits douse even for an instant. I'll dance with a smile on my lips all the 365 days. Who knows
Yes,
when I'll
very
be no more?
inspirational.
Who knows when I will be no more and miss such a wonderful prospect to revel? Thank you. That was my poem,
Nah, beautiful,
My
Beautiful.
beautiful.
Resolution.
Lovely,
Nice.
lovely,
Beautiful poem,
Lovely,
very
lovely.
lovely,
evocative, very
lovely poem.
inspirational,
Yes. Well,
Neelam.
yes.
Yes.
Very
I think this is the
positive
kind of New
thought.
Year resolution we all need to take.
Need to
Wonderful,
take.
wonderful.
Superb, superb, Neelam.
Preeti Joshi says superb. Satvir Chaddaji says excellent. Nivedita Roy, welcome. I love the sprightly poem by my darling friend Neelam. That's what she says. So all the accolades coming your way. Harpreet Kaur, awesome, Neelam ma'am. So all the accolades coming your way. Neelam, as always, when you read a poem, it's very impactful. You are with us,
Thoughtful.
and your poetry rendition is always very powerful. I'd like to ask you a question, not related to the poem, because the poem, was very, very inspirational and evocative and all about the New Year resolutions that all of us need to take. You are a highly respected and much awarded short story writer, novelist, a poet, and you handle all the three genres of literature. So I'd like to know, how do you balance your time between these three genres? So do you parallelly do this? Do you parallelly do this, or you allocate time for each of these amidst your own, very tight professional
No,
schedules?
I asked her the
no, I
same
do
question
nothing of
an
the
hour
kind.
ago.
I just, like as I said in my poem, I let myself flow freely. Whatever comes
Great.
to my mind, I write. If I feel like writing a poem, I'll write a poem. If I feel like writing a story, I write a story. I just don't follow any schedules. I don't follow any rules. I'm by myself, and that is what I enjoy, being myself and being with myself.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you
One.
so much. And you said last time, I remember, you don't ever go near the idiot box, the TV. I think that is one
Yeah.
big lesson for all of us, and that
Perfect.
saves so much of your time. And I'm sure you're utilizing your time so well. Thank you, Neelam. As always, you're very
Thank you.
inspiring, and thank you so much for that. So, do I hear a knock from
Now
John?
I invite.
Really.
Let me see once.
Hmm.
I don't think I can see him. He just sent a message a few minutes ago that he isn't able to connect. So I don't think he has been able to connect as of now.
Okay.
So can we invite you, Paddy, to render your poem?
Sure,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you very much. My poem is titled Trust Deficit. Trust deficit brings great strife as it slowly eats away one's life. Loss of faith, betrayal of trust bring extreme grief and disgust. Mind gets fuddled with suspicion, a clouded intellect and blurred vision, cause immense doubts and confusion, often leading to mental aberration. To love and be used, to trust and be abused, result in great trust deficit that renders positivity unfit. Trust deficit between two nations leads to bitter confrontations, or in modern times, cold wars that leave permanent scars. Transparent transactions, meaningful interactions, clarity in communications, and sensible delineations between individuals and nations are the key fulcrums of resolve on which faith and trust revolve. Thank you.
Yes. Beautiful.
Very
Meaningful
beautiful.
poem,
Very
very
beautiful,
Very
Paddy.
meaningful,
nice.
Thank you
Very
very
nice.
much.
beautiful,
Thank you very
beautiful.
much. So, do we have John around still?
No, not
Still.
him.
Okay, okay. In that case, do we? Thank you, Sadhvir Chadha, ma'am. Great idea to write on, she says. Nivedita Roy, such a beautiful poem, Padima. Thank you very much. No deficit of words here. Thank you. Thank you, Sadhvir Chadha ji. I'm very glad Harpreet Kaurji says wonderful poem. Thank you very much. I'm very happy that a lot of people have joined us, and some of them I'm not able to repeat the comments as I'm doing the anchoring. So please take your and later on, if you wish, you can thank all the people who have praised you. So shall we move into the second session, Neelam, of poetry reading?
Yes, yes, yes,
Before
please.
getting John on. Okay, so we'll slightly change the order instead of the same order. Waheeda, can I please request you to read your poem now?
Yes. Thank you, Paddy.
Hmm.
My all the poems, they revolve around a woman only. I'm not a feminist to say, but still, I don't know. I always end up writing about women issues, women empowerment. And here, this one poem, this is one of my favorite. I don't know how it is. It's about a woman. A woman. Where do I belong? She asked, searching for her identity, which was lost somewhere and could not be found. She stared at the vast vistas. She walked through the unceasing deserts, her feet tired and swollen, seeking an oasis, but alas, it was her illusion. She was nowhere. She tried to scream, but her voice choked. Darkness engulfed her, and she was lost in oblivion. As she opened her eyes, she saw a flame far beyond the horizon. A hope flickered. She gathered her bits and raised herself, her head held high. She marched afresh on the deserted path, searching for her identity, which was lost somewhere and could not be found. Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Wonderful
Very
poetry,
nice, very
Thank
wonderful
nice.
you.
poetry, very well rendered. I'd like to ask you
Thank you.
something, Waheeda. There's a Sarika Dev says, "Wow, Waheeda." Priya Patidar says,
Thank you.
"Great." And then Nilesh
Thank you.
Shende also had very nice things to say about your poem. And Nilesh Shende, you
Thank
know
you.
him. Yeah. So
Yes,
they all
yes.
have very good words about your poetry. I'd like to ask you one question. You're a teacher, you know. Kiran Sharma
Yes.
says, wonderful. Um,
Thank you. Thank you
you
so
are,
much. Thank you, everyone.
yeah. You are a teacher, you know, who shapes young minds. So, how does poetry shape you, or how do you get shaped by poetry? And what kind of poetry? This poetry on women, especially. From where do you get the inspiration to write these poems? Because they are so heart wrenching. I'm sure there have been
Uh,
some kind of incidents that you have seen that have made you write these poems. Can you just share your insights on these things?
as gradually we grow up, we live in a society which has certain standards. And, there's always a pressure on women to follow these standards. And I have been a rebellion sort of person, never, not very girlish type, or not, I mean, not boyish also, but at the same time, I have always been a rebel, I should say. And, I couldn't see myself in that particular role. So that has been playing in my mind for so many years. And gradually, I groomed myself into writing poetries, I should say, because I come from a very small town, Bharanpur. So
Manan.
after, like, when I got married here and when I joined school, I came in contact with so many people, and I was really inspired by them to improve my language and to express myself, express my thoughts. And that is where it brought me here now. Now I'm here. So, I have never followed a certain kind of a behavior, you know not I mean, I should not say that. Yes, I'm properly mannered. I follow rules and regulation, but in my mind I have always been a rebellion, sort of. And naturally, we all are influenced by the society we live in, and we live in a patriarchal society. So all these things come into your mind. You watch so many things, and at the same time you cannot take that step. Like, I'm not into social service, I'm not into uh, I cannot come forward openly. So these are my outlet. If I'm able to inspire someone, if I'm able to really make uh, what should I say, influence someone, it would be I think so. It will be what should I say? Um, like an achievement for me.
Excellent.
So
Excellently put. Excellently put. Thank you so
Good
much.
thought.
Very,
Good
very, because
thought.
we are so women here, I think we can very well identify with what you have just said, because we all around us we see this. See, Nilesh Shende says very well said, Waheeda
and
ji.
we have to play so many roles, like we are lost it, like we are really lost. We are playing the role of a woman, and we play the role of a wife, mother, then daughters. So it's always change of roles, but not as a woman. A woman who can express herself strongly is missing in all of us, I should say. We
I
are a
suppose.
we are yes, maybe we are too modern, but at the same time we are suppressed, like we are lost somewhere, like so that is
See,
what I strongly feel.
we
I
are
suppose
role playing.
expectations, that
I
are
can
placed
say,
on a
Yes,
woman. Hmm.
can I say
yes,
something? Paddy? We are role playing, but we play those roles according to the patriarchal rules.
yes,
We still don't.
that is what
We still
being said.
Very
don't play it independently.
true.
Play,
We
yes,
still
And education
we
well said,
still
ma'am.
have to toe the line properly.
yeah. You are truly a woman of substance, Waheeda ji, and that's such a
Thank you,
wonderful. You have
thank
expressed what many women feel. There is a rebel in each of us. Even at
us.
my age, I think
Yes,
I'm a bit of a rebel. Somewhere there's always a rebel within
somewhere
us,
is
a woman wanting to, come out. But some have the opportunity, like a poet, expresses rebellion through
yes, we can
poetry.
express our, yeah, through
Yes,
poetry.
yes, 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 yes. You're very well said, and my congratulations to you and my kudos to you for being a woman of
Thank you,
substance, standing up for
thank you so
the
much.
rights of women, and putting it in the public forum through your poetry about domestic violence, about female feticide and women's rights, etc. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
your
much.
lovely poem. Thoroughly enjoyed it also, and it also touched our hearts. Now it's the turn of Dr. Sunil Kaushal. I request you to please read your poem. Any hope
Okay.
of John coming in?
No, he's saying ki check for camera and mic works on Zoom. This application will not let me unmute.
Okay, okay. Have you
Okay.
invited him? He's asking. Of course we have. Right. So over to you, Dr. Sunil Kaushal.
Thank you, Paddy. Okay. Here I'm going to read a poem from this book, which has recently been published through the Significant League. And
Okay.
this is a Roseate Sonnet Anthology. And I was very fortunate to have one of my home in it. And this is the Roseate Sonnet is an innovation, an invention by Dr. Ampatoshi. And this, as you all know, the sonnet is composed of quatrains, and then you get the two lines in between. And this poem of mine is called "My Battered, Weathered Body and Soul." So there will be two quatrains, and then a couplet, and then the last quatrain will be an acrostic of the word rose. So the first line of the last quatrain will be R, and then with O, S, E. So I read this poem of mine. My battered, weathered body and soul shines from the brilliance of your starry eyes. As shadows of unworthiness melt in their warm light, gaping wounds heal inside this calloused shell. You say you are insanely in love with me? Your breath smells of a consuming passion. Your voice resonates with a fiery ardor, traveling over oceans even, loses not its fire. My faith in love, the anchor to our destiny, brings me face to face with worship, a prayer answered. And then the last quatrain, which is the acrostic rose. Ranjha, Rancha or Romeo? Do no names really matter? Rancha or Romeo? Do names really matter? Not age, nor places. Over many births we have sat under the stars, wearing other faces. Sakha, how I love it. Sakha, how I love it when your heart whispers words I wish to hear, embracing me in a cocoon of love and care, wiping away every tear. So, this was from this anthology. It's a wonderful historical piece now. It's the first book on the Rosio sonnet.
And the acrostic on Rose was very well, the conclusion, was so impactful and powerful. A very well written poem. I'd like, it's a sonnet, right? It's a sonnet.
Thank you, Paddy.
Yeah,
Yes,
wonderful,
thank you, Paddy.
wonderful. I'd like to ask you one question, Dr. Sunil Kaushal. You're in a profession that sees a lot of pain and that also sees a lot of healing. So, how
Yes.
has your own experience as a doctor, especially as a gynecologist, how has it shaped your, poetry, your poetic life? Can you just share a few insights?
You see, it's the other way around, Paddy. My poetic temperament shaped my practice.
Wonderful. Oh, that's wonderful.
Actually, what happened was that I was always a bit, emotionally, soft. And but I was in a profession which was very harsh, very harsh, very
True.
morbid, to say. It was morbid, dealing with death, disease, suffering the whole time. So there was that inner turmoil inside myself. My two selves could not, find a common track. But somehow in medical college, I started writing verses more. I was writing from childhood, actually, but I started writing because of my own pent up emotions, because everything was conflicting for me. I had to find an identity. So when I went into practice, I had a wide arena to work upon. I had women of all strata, of all religions, barriers, or independence, or working women, or labor class. You see, in a medical profession and a gynecologist, you're going to get women and you will get those stories.
True.
Every woman, every family connected to that woman was a story for me. And there were times some of my friends used to laugh. They said, "Abhi theater mein ek delivery karke aayi hai aur abhi ek poem likh degi." and, that is what I used to do, because things used to move me so deeply. But what happened was that I got a free hand to do some sort of work for those women through my profession. So my profession was influenced by my need to work for the underdog, for the needy women. And I was a Lioness president, and I had a lot of scope, to do a lot of work for these women. And that's how I was privileged enough to be able to help some of them in my own little way. But throughout my practice, I've been connected with them as a family member. Even now, if I meet an old patient of mine, they'll not say namaste to me, they will come and hug me tight. It's like I've had a very... Oh, John is there.
Finally joined.
Yes, so finally we have John. A warm welcome to you, John.
Finally,
we were all waiting for you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. And there have been some very nice comments for you, Dr. Sunil Kaushal, and that was a very nice, your poetry inspiring your profession. I think your patients were very blessed, because poet is always a very soft-hearted person, and therefore that softness, that kindness, that benign nature, I'm sure very much helped the patients and connect with you, and you connecting with them. So thank you very much for those insights. Now I think we'll quickly get John in before we lose him again. Where's John? Knock, knock.
His seat is vacant.
Knock, knock. John, are you there? We are waiting for you. May we have John or Neelam? Will you read your poem meanwhile, or shall we have John and then? Yeah, there he is.
John is here. He is here.
John, please come online. Please sit down.
Maybe we can begin with either of our poems, and then John can join.
So, Neelam, may I request you to please read your poem?
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
You know, this poem was written 10 years ago when I was standing on the Attari border or the Vaga border.
Mm-hmm.
Like all other poets, I dream of a place where there are no borders, either because of religion, caste, gender, color of skin, or borders of nations. So this poem was written while I was watching the frenzy on the Attari border, which is, as you all know, between our two countries. So I stood, the poem is titled Message by a Dove. I stood on the Attari border, watching the gate where two nations meet. I heard the anger of the maddening crowd, witnessing the ceremony of retreat. I shivered with enormous pain as I glanced at the crowd insane and wondered if the martyrs of earlier wars have just given their life in vain. I thought of the war widows of Kargil, whose tears have not yet dried. I thought of the children of 1965 war heroes, whose memories of loneliness have still survived. Oh goodness, why do nations fight? Why can't we smile and grow? Oh God, why this frenzy on both sides? Why can't we all together prosper and glow? The divisions, the biases, the differences. Oh Lord, there's no end at all. Human beings are all but one. Why do we create so many fences and walls? As I stood on the Attari border, watching the gate where two nations meet, and heard the uproar of the maddening crowd, witnessing the ceremony of retreat, I felt I was standing on a volcano, ready to erupt with agony and pain. I was about to leave the place with my silent prayers when suddenly it began to rain. Actually, it did in fact begin to rain that time. The drooping, cool, and pure drops of rain spread the message of friendship and love. I saw a small white bird passing by. Amazed I was as I realized it was a dove. It circled the border, it saluted the knights, and spread the message of wisdom and peace. And then it disappeared after creating a rainbow, shining bright in the cool breeze. As I stood on the Attari border, watching the gate where two nations meet, the dove had sprinkled some sweet happiness and peace, and I found some friendly smiles on the faces of those revered guards of retreat. So that was my poem, Message by a Dove.
Beautiful poem. Beautiful poem. And you have brought out that frenzy on both sides, really.
A great message.
A beautiful message has been conveyed that the frenzy, it's the bird which teaches us to be peaceful. The dove teaches us to be peaceful by painting a rainbow, and the rains teach us to cool down. What a beautiful thought in your poetry, Neelam. Amazing. Great poetry indeed. Great poetry indeed. So finally we have John with us. John, can you hear me? John, can you hear me? Excellent, excellent, excellent.
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah, great, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, John, I can hear you. I can hear you. So Chitra Bani says very nice, Neelam ji. Manisha
I had to
Amol.
get a cup of tea after all that.
Good. You're lucky. Good. That's nice. That's nice. Wonderful. So please have your tea. And finally,
Hello.
I have great pleasure in welcoming our guest poet, a well-known English poet, all the way from France, to our studio. Hi, John. Welcome finally to the studio. Hope you're able to hear me now.
Thank you.
Okay. So here
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Wonderful. So here are some brief insights into our poet John Eliot's literary journey. John Eliot, some years ago, submitted his poem for an anthology. The publisher turned it down, but suggested that John should keep writing. John Eliot wrote with renewed energy and purpose, and within a couple of years had enough for a poetry collection. To his good fortune, he met a small publisher, a boutique bibliophile imprint called Mosaic Press, who decided on the strength of his work to start a series of poetry chapbooks. Since then, he has published 4 poetry collections, besides the translation of his work into Italian. Sometimes life comes a full circle. What was rejected became the cornerstone for John Eliot. So welcome again, John, to this International Poetry Meet, our 3rd International Poetry Meet, being organized and facilitated by my dear friend and prolific poet, short story writer and novelist, Neelam Saxena Chandra. Welcome, John. May I now please request you to read your poem before we lose you?
Thank you. I'm sorry I moved from one room into here for better internet, and I've left the poem. So
you're here. We're very happy to find you here. Oh, what happened? Where's John?
I think I'll have to write a story called The Missing John. So the moment I said that, John is back.
Yes. John, you're playing hide and seek with us.
Yes.
I know.
Come. Let's hear your poem.
He's playing Tom and Jerry.
Sorry.
He's playing Tom and Jerry. There, he's gone again.
I think we'll have enough time only for one poem from John. Let's see. If we get that across. Yeah.
Right, I am here.
Yay!
Finally.
Good evening, John.
I sincerely apologize for this. It is an absolute honor to be here. But of course, what you have to remember is it's quite a long way from France to India. And that, of course, is why it's taken me virtually 45 minutes to get to you. And I can't even find the poem that I intended to read. Fortunately, because I've published 4 collections of poetry, and I'll get a bit more middle on the screen, I can virtually open the book anywhere and read to you. So I will start with the poem that I was going to finish with. Interestingly, this was the poem that Paddy just mentioned. A few years ago, I sent 4 poems to be included in an anthology of love poems. One was accepted, much to my wife's horror, because it was a poem about her. And she said, but everybody knows it's going to be about me, you know? And I said, yes, that's right. I've put your telephone number on the bottom, your photograph, you know, the whole works. But there was one poem that the publisher said, no, we only want this one poem, but there's one other poem that could not be included as a love poem, but ought to be published. And it was that made me start putting together a collection. I don't think I've ever read this in public before, and it's certainly taken some effort to get it read this afternoon. There must have been, the gods somewhere must have been stopping me doing this. It's a very old poem. It's one of the first poems I ever wrote. Maybe afterwards you can ask me about it, but some of it's very personal and it's not necessarily the kind of thing that I would include on Facebook. And also, you know, when we listen to a poem, what do we really know about it? We make our own interpretations. We don't necessarily know what the poet meant. I mean, what on earth, when you think about it, what on earth is T.S. Eliot on about? Anyway, this poem was published this year in the selected poems, the Italian poem, and it's there in the collection in English and Italian. Just the English version, because I don't speak Italian. Friday Night Song. It's a Friday night, 1970. I lay with a bottle of Guinness and a beautiful boy. Now at 52, I am left with the vicar, the Beatles and the Amsterdam Hilton. How I love those words, Amsterdam Hilton. My daughter in the room next door, she can't hear the noises of the street, silence in sex, that I once listened to. With her boy, she can only hear the Beatles. 15 years ago I wrote that. 16 years ago I wrote it, in fact. That is the one that I didn't intend to read.
So that's a very
Would
nice
you like another?
background about the poem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So can you tell us something more about this poem that you have written, John?
Yep, I will try.
What triggered it?
It's a poem. It's a poem that has a number of stories in it. So when I say it's a Friday night, 1970, I lay with a bottle of Guinness. That is actually talking about a girlfriend that I had in 1970, and we only met on a Friday night because her parents didn't know that she was meeting with me. And so then I invert it so that it's her saying, I lay with a bottle of Guinness and a beautiful boy. In 2000, whatever the date was, 2005, she would have been 52, and she became a vicar. So I'm left with the vicar.
Okay.
I'm then in another room. It starts getting, complicated. I'm listening to the Beatles. It's also a Friday night. I'm listening to John Lennon's The Ballad of John and Yoko. And there's my daughter, age 17, in the other room. I know that she's with her boyfriend. I don't know what she's up to, but it ends up like Friday nights being repeated again. It's something like that. But you might think something entirely different. You want to tell me what it's about?
Yeah. Friday nights mean many things to many people, but Fridays are always a wonderful time of the week because you look forward to the weekend. And Friday means many things to many people. Thank you so much, John, for sharing all those insights and
It's
taking us
like
down memory lane, taking us
final
down
word.
the lane of your own life.
It's like that song by the. Sorry, it's like that song by The Cure. Monday, I have Friday on my mind. It's Friday today, isn't it? Yes.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, I can read another later. Or I can even find the poem I lost. Oh, it's irritating. Right.
So thank you, John. Thank you for that poem of yours. Shall we have another poem by him, Neelam? What shall we do?
Oh, yes. Sure.
So can we move on to your next poem, John? The second poem, because everybody has
Yeah, let me
poems except you and me. So
look
please,
through.
would you like to read one more poem?
Yeah, sure.
Please do. We managed to get him in somehow.
Oh, I know. I'll read this.
Please, please.
This is The Widow. It's quite a long poem, so it makes up for the one that I lost was also long. It's called The Widow. I love this poem. This is also in translation in the Italian book as well. The Widow. Strange. We heard a gunshot almost at 8:30 this morning. Echo in the evening when Mark fired, blowing his brains amongst the flowers, feeding them his last thoughts. Watching you then, wonder your empty house, shutters drawn, shielding cold, dark winter. Holding the gun, there was only one action: lift to the chin, repeat and repeat like a piece of music that sticks and will never end. Outside, the silence. Blackness before dawn, hearing you tread, walking as you will always walk, the soft tread of the dead. Painful, slow, crossing carrying the rifle. You know the way in this blackness without the moon or stars. You cannot fall. Listen. The horse moves. She hears your steps, and we all turn in our beds, hearing the single shot thunder without lightning or storm or rain. We wait again for you to break the silence. We arrived early dawn, mist hung over the valley, a spirit never leaving. The colour for a moment was only as God could capture, as if the sun would never rise. Hanging beneath grey clouds, lightning and then heavy leaden rain finally fell. Listening, we could hear an echo of gunshot. There was no one there to pull the trigger. The hunters lay in their beds. Guns hung on the wall, and the dead remained dead. Thank you.
Thank you. The dead
Very
remain dead, and a gunshot.
very meaningful.
Yes, very meaningful,
Very
very, yes, it reaches the heart, and a gunshot piercing the silence of a night. And there was reference to rain, and there was reference to a different kind of rain in Neelam's poem. But somewhere I felt the gunshots and the rain, somewhere the rain is a leveler everywhere. It plays the leveler in both the poems. So that was a beautiful poem, John. Thank you so much. You have an Italian connection, I know.
Thank you.
You're associated with the Salerno University, Italy. So can you tell us a bit
That's right.
about association with the Salerno University? Your Italian connection.
Yes. You want me to tell you? Yeah. I think it was about 3 years ago. I went over to Italy on a project with a number of other poets, and I had 4 or 5 of my poems translated, working with the students during the week. When I came back, I was determined that I wanted to carry on working with them. I wanted a whole book done. And so I contacted one of the students, an Alessandro Alessandro Pinto, who's a wonderful boy, and I asked him whether he'd be interested in translating the poems, and he said he would like to do it and work with 3 other students. That was Alessia Calabrese, Sarah Palante, Alessandro, and Mary Grazia Poppety. And over the next year, we worked together on translating the collection. After that, we then thought about, my publisher and I, Chuck, Reed, and myself, we thought about talking to Professor Barone and seeing whether we could actually start a project with the students. And so I've gathered together now 20 different poets, Paddy included, and a number of others, like Menna Elfyn, who's considered to be the best living poet in Wales at the moment. We have really top quality poets involved in this, and the poets have contributed to the poems, and the students are working on the translation, and hopefully we should produce another anthology and maybe even present the poets and the translators at a festival in Salerno, Italy, probably in 2022.
Excellent, excellent,
Okay.
excellent. Yes, got it, got it. Thank you, thank you. That was a, it's a very nice project that you have working with the students translating the poems, English poems. I think that's a very nice project involving youngsters and initiating youngsters into poetry and also into translation, especially, that's an art in itself. So thank you for sharing that project that you have with the Salerno University. Thank you, John. Thank you for both your poems. And so with this, I think it's my turn to read my poem. Right?
Yes, yes. I was going to invite you.
Okay. So my poem is on a very topical one. It's from my book Penchants, and it's a very short poem. I usually write very short poems. It's on a very favorite topic of all of us, all the writers. We crave for it, actually. It's called On Feedback. So on feedback, I wonder why folks tend to be slack when it comes to posting a feedback on the pieces they read with such relish, not knowing it's their feedback I relish. Anyway, I write for my own pleasure, without any expectation or pressure. If anyone responds, fine, else the joy of writing is all mine. A feedback helps in knowing the direction in which I'm going, whether the reader is able to connect with what my mind is trying to reflect. I've just changed one word in this poem at the end. If you're hearing this, then please don't miss posting your feedback. I don't mind taking flack. Thank you.
Nice.
Lovely.
Yes.
So, wonderful, wonderful.
Wonderful.
That is what all of us like to get from. Yes, thank you, thank
You
you.
voiced every poet's wish.
Yes, yes. So we all yearn for feedback, actually, so that, feedback helps in, evolving. Feedback helps in our refining our poetry, actually. So thank you very much. With this, I think we come to the end of both the sessions. Thank you, John, for making it, especially with all the glitches that were there. You still made it, and we are so happy you are here finally. And you gave that special meal.
That was the best part of the meal.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you
He
so
was
much.
able to make it.
Paddy, if I could just say, thank you so much for inviting me. It really has been an honour to read with you all tonight, and I look forward to meeting you again, and maybe we'll talk on Messenger or whatever. I'm very happy to speak to anybody about poetry. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much. Please be seated, John. Till Neelam, puts us all off on this thing. You please be in the studio. Don't go away. Don't get up. Please be seated.
Thank you so much, friends. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Waheeda ji. Thank you, Neelam, for your
Thank you,
wonderful
Paddy. Thank you,
Thank
Neelam.
you,
Thank you so
Paddy,
much.
for having
Thank
me
you.
over.
Such a
Thank you so much.
wonderful
I
audience we
request
have.
you to finally give her concluding remarks.
It was a real pleasure to finally have you, John, amongst us. And your poems were really heart touching. I'm really, I didn't know how to react after listening to your poems. They were really wonderful. Waheeda, you are a wonderful poet. Please keep this journey moving. And Sunilji, you were as wonderful as ever and as beautiful as ever. And Paddy, you are such a wonderful moderator. And I do call you Paddy Ma for certain reasons. So please be there with us in
Always.
spirits, all of you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so
Bye.
much,
Bye.
everybody.
Goodbye.
Lovely
Bye. Good
meeting
night.
you all.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night
Thank
from
you.